Welcome back to Tokyo Ghoul Anime Review, episode number 23. This one I'm reviewing the 23rd episode of the series. Encounter. Yep, Encounters. Act Encounters. This one's adapted from chapters 165 to 172. All of the episodes before this one, they just took bits and pieces of other chapters. The past two episodes, nothing but just full chapters. My guess is at this point is like, okay, let's keep everything while making minor changes here and there. This is what they should have done, instead of just basically rushing to get to the very end. What happens this episode? Well, we have various different fights happening here. I love some of the editing they do in here, where in the case of what Kaneki is up to in this episode, yeah, because in the chapters these are adapted from, Kaneki only appeared for like a quick 2 panels, and that was it. They sort of basically made that, it took those panels and made it into a good 5 minutes of screen time. With him and his brother-in-law, Toka's brother Akano, I think his name is, where they go and look for the cure for this virus that's turning people into ghouls. Also, I remember when I was talking about these particular chapters when I was reviewing them last year, actually it was probably earlier this year when I was talking about them, where there are these mysterious humans and the mysterious people who are all dressed in suits, and they're ghouls. I thought there was some mysterious organization because I don't know what these people were. They just randomly showed up and start brawling people. It's kind of the same thing here in the anime. The only difference is that, well, they were turned this way because of the stupid virus. I didn't remember that from the manga. My guess is that either it must have been changed or that just happened and I just barely remember it. We also have the Renjin versus Uda fight. Uda is the mask maker, the one who made Kaneki's mask. They have a good brawl. In the manga, this lasted for a good 3 full chapters. Yeah, a good 2 or 3 chapters before this finally concluded. In the anime, this took up a lot of screen time. One of 2 fights. It takes up most of the screen time this episode. The other, of course, is Amino versus the evil ghoul priest. Yeah, that also takes a good chunk of this episode. Before all that happened, we have Kaneki and his group trying to figure out a way to get rid of this virus. And, well, they decided to have it where Kaneki is like, okay, I've got resistance to this virus. I'll go out and find this cure. And then Toka's brother is like, okay, I'm going to, for some reason. Toka's surprised to see him. And then later on they climb up this thing which has all these kind of eggs on it. If you ever see this in the anime, it looks like something out of a sci-fi horror film. Like something you see in sci-fi horror anime with these eggs and these start hatching, these creatures start popping out. And he tells Kaneki to run. He's like, me protecting my damn brother-in-law. That's basically what he says in the sub. He refers to him as his damn brother-in-law. Because he's married to his sister, his beautiful, smoking hot sister. Which, I don't know if he knows that Toka is pregnant with Kaneki's child. I have no idea if he does at this point. He probably does. Maybe Toka probably told him off screen. So the episode ended with Kaneki confronting the guy behind all of this. The former director of the CGC, Ruta. Takes out his Kaneki, he takes out his King K, and that's where the episode ends. Of course, how they find... Now, people behind some of the attacks in this episode, where you have the owl showing up completely out of no heck. Even the manga, this was strange. The owl showing up, and he's being controlled by the clowns. Yes. Of course, the clowns are the lady who ran that smoking hot woman who ran that bar who gave Kaneki information in the original series. We have Uda, the mask maker, and we have the evil ghoul priest. The first 2 are fine, I have no problem with it, but why the ghoul priest? The guy was so creepy. Eventually, Armand was able to defeat him by slicing him to pieces. And he says, yeah, I love my time there, but I didn't like you very much. Yep. That's kind of how the episode ends with him. How the things with him. Renja basically battles him for a good long while. He impales on top of a building. And, of course... He doesn't kill him per se. Also, the owl launches these giant laser beams that basically destroy a lot of buildings. Also, I've got to ask though about this. I'm sure a lot of people probably ask this as they review this series. Was there anybody in those buildings when Tokyo was reduced to ruins by the Black Dragon? Who knows? Because the series doesn't really address it very much. It's like, oh, we have these buildings that are basically in ruins. By the way, in case you're wondering, does Tokyo stay like this for pretty much the rest of the series? Yes, it does. Well, up until the final chapter. After the Pendulum chapter, Tokyo's back normal by the final chapter because they have a time skip in the last chapter. So yeah, Tokyo is in ruins for the rest of the series. In case you're wondering. hmm I gotta say, for adaptation wise, for the fights, for the two fights they had in this episode, very well done. Didn't really cut much of anything from what I can tell, and they stay true to how they were in the manga. I think they added some things here and there, but excuse me. This overall was a really damn good episode, and in my opinion, one of the best episodes of this entire season. It didn't have terrible pacing, it had good editing. Like overall, the episode had good animation, good editing, good pacing, good storytelling. And some people like, I'm sure some people like, why can we have this before with earlier episodes? Instead of rushing. This one basically has a good pacing with it, which I do appreciate that. And the preview for next week's episode kind of confirmed my fear about this particular season. It's only going to be 12 episodes. No idea why, it's just that's the way it is when it comes to this particular series. I don't know why. It's one of the most bizarre things when it comes to Studio Parrots and Tokyo Ghoul. They did the same thing for the original series. And this, apparently, where 12 episodes is a limit, which in my opinion is quite stupid, and of course, rushing to the manga. Though, I gotta say, so far, for some of the stuff, I'm glad that they did a really good job with. The fight scenes in this particular series have been really good. So there was a few have been rushed, but I would say the best ones are basically from this episode. And I love the fact they kept a good chunk of stuff intact from the scene, from the chapter in the manga, chapter 125, where Kaneki and Toka had sex. Yeah, I'm glad the fact, even though they trimmed it down a little bit, I'm glad they kept the good meat of it, where and they gave a good build to it too, which is really nice. This episode is just really damn good, which kind of misses exactly what they did with the previous episodes. And of course, next week being the final episode, which means next week's episode is going to adapt chapters 173 to 179 because there's only 7 chapters left. This one adapted 8 chapters this episode. And despite the fact that 8 chapters, they did a really damn good job. Probably because a lot of stuff that happens in these chapters were just fight scenes. Though I think they did rearrange some stuff a little bit, but at least in the case of and also in this episode, Kaneki was losing Renge, the woman who basically caused all this in the first place for him. And in case you're wondering, now I remember from the manga around this point in time that these evil ghouls actually found Renge Rise, and then they didn't do anything with it. They just found her completely randomly, the humans that returned the ghouls, and nothing is done with that. It's like they just find her and nothing is done with it. As far as I remember, I don't think they were in. I think they were in around these particular times, but I think they may have cut it. But if anybody read this from the manga, like, okay, they find Rise in one of these green egg things, and nothing comes of it. Yeah, it's one of the it's probably the only plot thread from Tokyo Ghoul Re that was left hanging when the series ended. I wouldn't be surprised if the anime decided to do something with that. I have no idea if they would or not, but it all depends exactly what the anime would do. As far as I can tell, for the writer of Tokyo Ghoul Re, he's done. As far as I can tell, he hasn't written anything since the actual series ended. I mean, he's only written 3 things. He's written the Tokyo Ghoul Jack one shot. He wrote the original Tokyo Ghoul series, the sequel series Re, and he wrote the one shot for Hunter x Hunter. He wrote the Hitsuko one shot for Hunter x Hunter. That's all the guy has done in his entire writing career. Writing 2 one-shots and 2 weekly series. Yep. Nothing else to say. But even after review next week's episode, the only thing left to review for Tokyo Ghoul, the whole franchise, well, I have the light novel. I want to get my hands on the final light novel of the series, and because I should probably briefly talk about this. It was announced a few months ago that the Tokyo Ghoul live action film is getting a sequel. Me personally, I think it's fantastic due to the fact that, for one thing, it's probably one of the very few live action adaptations of a manga that stays faithful to its source material. The only other film I've seen like this where they stay faithful to the source material that's it's a live action adaptation of a source material is Bashura Kenshin. That's the only other series I've seen where they do a live action film and they actually do faithful to the source material. Though the changes they made were actually the writers' idea for that one. Though most people agree probably the worst adaptation of a manga, live action adaptation of a manga, is Dragon Ball Evolution. I own it. My criticism is not due to, well, the stupid changes they made to the thing, was the fact the film was so damn short. Yeah, I think the film was okay, but it is kind of a bad film. But Tokyo Ghoul, the live action film, that is really good. The changes they made to that film were fantastic. Actually, I didn't have a problem with the changes they made to the film. The film stayed faithful to source material. I mean, yeah, they did kind of merge scenes from the first few arcs of the manga, but at least they actually did make any major changes. The characters were pretty much the same they were in the manga. I mean, they did kind of adjust some stuff a bit, but yeah. But that's all I got. If you want to get my full thoughts on the Tokyo Ghoul live action, check out an earlier review. I think it's, from my remember, I think it's probably part 4 of this anime review series when I talked about. Wow, I talked about the original Ghoul series when I talked about the live action film. Get my full thoughts on that there. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this particular review. Stay tuned for my review of Black Butler Season 2. And as for my review of 7 Deadly Sins, it probably isn't going to happen today. It's probably going to happen tomorrow due to the fact the chapter's not been loaded today. And plus also the chapter's not been released yet. Probably due to that, okay? But until we see you next review, bye.